Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tech Sheck. Continuing along, sharing stories from the Pakistan tech startup ecosystem. Had the good fortune of running into this young man through a very interesting article he wrote and published on LinkedIn, calling out some things we don't often look at, which is important. Positivity is great, reality is better. And with that, I want to introduce Mr. Habibullah Khan from Penumbra Consulting. They provide early stage startups with branding, marketing, and advertising expertise. And with that, Habib, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Good to have you here. And as you've seen Tech Check style, we're not going to waste a lot of time. We're going to dive right in. Tell us more about you. Tell us more about Penumbra.
Okay, so by the nature of the work we do early stage branding, right? And we're only focused on the technology industry, and then we do transactional deals for B2B tech companies as and when needed. We have clients across all the way from Australia to Gulf to the US. And so we've got clients in like 10 countries. And so one of the things you end up realizing is that branding and strategy are very interlinked. So we end up being very close to startups. We actually get great market intel on deployment also, right? So for example, if a VC is looking for targets, we are actually working with the startups who will be viable, right? And we can actually stack the deck in their favor by staying involved. So we have a sort of a skin in the game model where we stay involved until conditions of victory are met, which for startups are usually pre-seed, seed, Series A funding. Usually beyond Series A, most of our relationships don't last that long because early stage. That's our expertise. That's what we're good at. That's what we focus on. And it's been a lot of fun. And, we started before this whole, shall we call it gold rush, or this recent enthusiasm into the Pakistani market, which is very well justified. In fact, if anything, I think they don't get why it's actually a much longer bull run than what some people are anticipating, right? So we started before, then we were caught in the middle of it, and I think it's been a great ride. And so I'm a man of very middling talents. I'm not very smart at all, but I've been blessed that the quality of founders I work with, man, those guys really know their stuff, right? So I learn from them. And so I end up getting a perspective across different sectors, right, and different industries. So 1 week we're doing fractional ownership on blockchain. The next week we're doing a two-sided fintech platform. The week after that we're looking at transforming agri-tech. And so you have to get down in deep, because if you're building pitch decks for like institutional VCs, which is a very different conversation from an individual investor, angel investor, right? So
sure.
When you do it that way and you have to pass the institutional VC process, you can't you can't just wing it. So it's been a fantastic journey. I mean, if you're passionate about learning as I am, I wouldn't have chosen anything else, because every week is like back in high school, man. Although I wasn't that great in high school, so
I don't think many of us were, if it makes you feel any better.
Yeah, okay, good.
So, well, this is really interesting. So, Habib, what I'm really keen to understand, and as you know, I've been covering this ecosystem for the last couple of years, and you're one of the unicorns in the sense that I'm not seeing a lot of people on the ground who've kind of worked through the technology industry and can share insights. So I'm going to now throw a little crystal ball question at you. And what do you see happening in the next 3 to 5 years? Right? Just based on what you've been doing.
So my gut feel is that we will plateau at say $100 million a quarter on the average in the next couple of years. There are a few things we need to look at, and which can make the amount seesaw, right? So obviously the whole, although VCs are gutsy, right, and
Sure.
they understand that you have to invest sometimes when there's blood in the streets.
Sure.
But the geopolitical and the political stability, all of these things matter. And we're a frontier market, so that excitement always is right around the corner. So that may affect this. But on the other hand, there are a few things we have to look out for. And whenever an economy digitizes, Farooq, there are a couple of steps it goes through.
Sure.
And a couple of things happen, right? So um, if you look at where we are the seventh most protectionist economy in the world, right? So that means we're an incredibly inefficient economy, which conversely means that the ability of startups to maximize value and outsize returns is inherently built into the system once they get a crack at it. So what's it going to take for them to take a crack at it or to innovate?
Right.
So when you look at those, so let's call those the conditions of victory for making startups do their stuff, right? So we have the young startups. They're savvy, they're street smart, they'll adapt. They have cross-functional teams. The ecosystem is developing. Startups are failing. Startups are succeeding. That's what you need, right? And the knowledge stays in the ecosystem, which is critical.
Right.
There's no white guy from PwC flying in, working with, say, a large bank, and then taking that knowledge back with him, right? So this is all very healthy. But there are a few things that are holding us back. So you have to keep an eye on those. And I feel if we crack those, then we are gonna not 1x, 2x, 10x, we're going to 200x the potential of this nation. Right. So what are those things? One of the things I'm looking at is, of course, unified payments rails.
Okay.
And, so we're in the era of embedded finance, where you say that every startup is a fintech. Well, not in this country, buddy. And it's not, because like without payments, you can't really have an online model, correct?
True.
Now, right now, if I want to get paid, I have, say, 30 banks. Now, I need to integrate with each bank one by one. So let's say if it's a 2 to 3 month process, we're talking about 60 to 90 months in a linear manner of onboarding banks to be able to do your stuff. It's ridiculous, right? So unified payment rails, which I believe India got in 2040, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're like 7 years behind, and I think I have no words. We shouldn't be this far behind. But the state bank has those rails now.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
and they're called Rust, and they're basically battle testing them with G2P payments, right? And after that, they will go to consumer. So we can expect Q1 2022 onwards that the consumer model will be tried and perfected, and then it will launch commercially. So next year, hopefully, we'll have that piece figured out.
Great.
But that piece does not work alone, right? It has to combine with KYC, and on that we are disastrously behind, right? So again, if you use India as a frame of reference, their Aadhaar and identity stack went on to 2009. Or thereabouts, right? So we're probably 11, 12 years behind them.
Right.
And so what happens is that, sure, I can arrange the payments, but how do I know who you are? And who am I giving this to? So so that matters both for onboarding, which is critical for startups, and also matters for, fraud and managing data, everything that fuels successful business models. So we don't have that.
Got it.
And that to me is a massive drawback. But so we're starting to talk about digital identity, and we're talking, and hopefully, if we look at the models out there like Estonia, Dubai, we'll get a mobile seamless digital identity, which becomes like a circle of trust. All your documents are related to it. You just ping it, and you know who you are. You have all the data related to you. You have your transactional graph in terms of, identity, everything, who you are, who you're related to, everything is there. And once we get that building block and we combine it with unified payment rails, you can expect e-commerce, you can expect fintech, you can expect everything to turbocharge 200x. So what we are seeing right now is just catching up. In terms of the market fundamentals, we are highly inefficient. Those critical basic building blocks, and a third critical building block is actually digitization around ease of doing business. So we've done fantastic work the last couple of years on that. And I think last year we were the fourth biggest mover in ease of doing business in the world. But again, we're coming from really far behind, right? So it all looks good. So we need to continue that. We need to get that identity stack. And I assure you, 200x is the minimum you're looking at in terms of transactions, in terms of business model valuation, in terms of number of startups that this economy can support, we're really, really, really far behind. Right now, we're sitting here and we're saying, wow, we've this year we've raised more money than the last 5 years, 8 years, 10 years combined, right?
Sure.
Sure we have, but we typically have, when you look at per capita income, when you look at GDP, when you look at other metrics, right? When we look at India, which is, I think, a good regional frame of reference to have, right? When we look at them for metrics, they're usually 8 to 1, 10 to 1 compared to us. So the Indians have raised over $20 billion, right? Already so far this year. And if you apply that really rough anecdotal 10 to 1, we should be raising a couple of billion every year, right? Or 1 to 2 billion. So that's our real potential. And these building blocks are some of the missing pieces that we need to get. There are others, but I can't give you my whole playbook, right? I got to also do my stuff. But so yeah, that's what you look out for, right? And keep an eye on this. And whenever you see these things lining up, bro, get cash, get friends and family, hit a few investors and dive in. You will not miss, as long as you do your basic qualification well. And if you have doubts around that, you can always give me a call. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And it's really, really helpful and a different perspective that's very much needed. And I think because you've had the experience working with big North American companies, and the way you're explaining this makes a lot of sense. So the one question I did have for you, though, is I was made aware of a sizable initiative taken by the State Bank of Pakistan, working with Garandas to really ingrain this digital rail, as you mentioned. What's your view and the progress on that?
The payment rail I earlier mentioned, Ras, that is that payment rail.
Okay,
right?
Got it.
So my view on that is very simple. I love it. It's extraordinary. It's awesome. Good. It just needs to work.
Yeah.
It needs to manage, a certain amount of concurrent transactions securely. And so we're looking forward to that. We will know in another 7-8 months, hopefully, if they're on track. And I'm really looking forward to that. That's one of the few big pieces that this country is missing. And frankly speaking, we are very, very far behind our regional peers when it comes to that. So, let's talk again in 6-7 months, but it's on track.
Oh, that's good. No, we'll definitely, we'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully we'll have you back on with more success on what's happening in that situation. So with that, Habib, as you know, we try to keep this short and sweet. I think today was really helpful because you're bringing a different perspective. You're kind of comparing us to similar environments and where their gaps are. And with that, the last question I have for you, and very relevant, what can the diaspora do to help?
So why would the diaspora want to help? One is, of course, they're patriots, and I appreciate that. I respect that. And we have to make it easy for them to, bring their cash in. So the Special Technology Zones Authority has been authorized by the PM to basically do that, right? So you will have a one-window operation. And some people are mistakenly thinking of it as a real estate play. It's not. It's public-private partnership. Their job is to bring all the actors together and to ensure that, money comes in, is securely, and you have the right data, and then you can deploy it, right? Seamlessly. Mm-hmm. So those guys are an important step. It shows that the government understands this and it cares. Now, the diaspora can obviously help in two ways. We will need many of them to come back. Mm-hmm. And all I can tell you from my end is that they should. The potential that I have mentioned is not 10x or 20x, it's 200x. And the returns will be similarly outsized, right? So I have zero doubts about that. So they need to keep an eye on this, but they need to keep an eye on it, not from a hype point of view, because hype can be misleading. Like currently where we are, to me, that's just catching up, right? There's a lot of money, there's some big rounds, there's exciting, So this hype cycle is normal for any closed economy that's digitizing. Sure. But keep an eye out for these fundamental blocks, but then we will hopefully really take off. What they need to do, of course, is have a very clear qualifying scorecard, of how to invest and what to invest. And for that, there are a couple of things that we need to look out for, which I feel are different. So, I mean, there are times that classic Silicon Valley VCs, when I chat with them, I do humbly disagree. Although they're the ones with the millions and the track record. But there's some things you look at that are more personable to this market, and you keep an eye out that if you want to stack the deck in your favor, right?
Sure.
Right now, VCs are just looking at, okay, have you done this before? Because this market is opening up for the first time in its history. So if you've done it before, or if you've managed growth, that's good enough. And you can manage a corporate culture. Great, I'm going to give you money, and I understand where they're coming from. But we're a society of scarcity, right? We're one generation away from poverty. Poverty is all around us. The US, the West, there are societies of plenty. So the conditions of success or the condition of choosing a founder, for example, might be a little bit different. I feel they are. And so because of this scarcity versus plenty debate or line, some things change. So keep an eye out for that. For example, I would choose a frugal founder. That doesn't mean he skimps on his tech or he skimps on not giving equity. But a sort of a mature frugality is important, I feel, for a founder in Pakistan if he's going to scale and give money back to his founders. That might not matter as much in the US, where there are a lot of throw money for growth, acquisition. You don't have to show profits to get valuation sort of a models going on. So that's just one. So there are 5-6 things like that which I have strewn around and made a note of. So you have to see the personalized approach and judge according to that. The potential is definitely there. And unlike other people thinking that, oh yeah, we suddenly arrived and from here, everything is normal. I think this is just the real first little uptick, right? There will be some volatility, but long-term in the next 3 to 5 years, the diaspora should absolutely start setting cash aside so it can invest back in Pakistan and get outsized returns. I have zero doubts about that. That time is coming. And they should start building the intelligence networks. They should start pinging. They should start catching up on what's going on. They should start, keep watching your show to see, deployment angles and vectors. And keep an eye on these fundamental things and keep an eye out on the sort of profile of a founder you want to invest with. And then when these two collide, go ahead and invest.
Fantastic. Great advice. Habib, we've come to the end of our time. First of all, thank you very much. Great insights. Really enjoyed having you on the show. I'm sure our audience will also enjoy your insights accordingly.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great. Short and sweet and powerful. I love it.
Well, we're trying. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And to our audience out there, as you can see, 90 plus episodes. We're going strong. The ecosystem keeps growing. Yeah, there are challenges. Habib just mentioned a few, but that doesn't mean the train's stopping. It means it's getting faster, and hopefully those rails are going to get stronger. So with that, please continue, like, share, subscribe, submit ideas for content. Always hungry for that. I know there's hundreds more great stories in Pakistan that we want to cover. And with that, I bid you all Allah Hafiz.